The morning sun came through the tall windows of the Hartford mansion. The light made everything look golden and expensive. Marcus Chen sat at the small table in the kitchen. His math homework was spread out in front of him. He tried to focus on the numbers, but his mind kept wandering to the sounds coming from down the hall. Sebastian Hartford was practicing again. The music filled the entire house. It was a piece by Chopin. Marcus knew it well. He had heard Sebastian play it at least 50 times in the past 2 weeks. Each time Sebastian played, Marcus listened carefully. His ears caught every note, every pause, every soft touch, and every strong press of the keys. Marcus was 17 years old. He had lived in the shadow of this mansion for most of his life. His mother, Elena, worked here. She had been the Hartford family's housekeeper for 15 years. She cleaned their rooms, washed their clothes, cooked their meals, and made sure everything was perfect. The Hartfords were very rich. They had more money than Marcus could imagine. The music stopped suddenly. Marcus heard Sebastian's frustrated voice echo from the music room. He was talking to himself again. Sebastian often got angry when the music did not sound exactly right. Marcus understood that feeling. He felt it too when he practiced on his keyboard at home. Marcus lived with his mother in a small apartment across town. It was not fancy like the mansion. The walls were thin. The paint was old. But it was home. In his tiny bedroom, Marcus had an old keyboard. He bought it from a thrift store 2 years ago. It cost him $40. He had saved that money from doing odd jobs. Mowing lawns, walking dogs, helping neighbors carry groceries. The keyboard had only 61 keys instead of the 88 keys on a real piano. 3 of the keys did not work at all. The sound was flat and electronic. Nothing like the rich, warm sound of the grand piano in the Hartford music room. But Marcus did not care. That keyboard was his treasure, his escape, his dream. Every night after his mother came home from work, after they ate dinner, after he finished his homework, Marcus would sit at that keyboard. He would put on his old headphones so he would not disturb the neighbors. Then he would practice for hours. He taught himself everything. He watched free videos on the internet. He read library books about music theory. He studied the hand movements of famous pianists on YouTube. Marcus had a gift that he did not fully understand. He could hear a piece of music once and play it back. Not perfectly at first, but after a few tries he could remember every note. It was like the music wrote itself in his brain. His fingers just knew where to go. At school, nobody knew about his music. Marcus was quiet. He kept to himself. He had a few friends, but he never talked about the piano. What would he say? That he dreamed of being a pianist? That would sound crazy. Kids like him did not become pianists. That was for rich kids. Kids like Sebastian Hartford. Sebastian was 19 years old. He had everything Marcus did not have. Sebastian took piano lessons from the best teachers. He attended a private music academy. He performed at fancy concert halls. He had a Steinway grand piano that cost more than most people's cars. His parents supported his music career completely. Marcus had heard all about Sebastian from his mother. Elena was proud to work for such a talented family. She often told Marcus how lucky Sebastian was, how hard Sebastian worked, how much pressure he faced to be perfect. Elena never said it directly, but Marcus understood. She wished her son could have those same chances. The Hartford mansion was huge. It had 12 bedrooms, 8 bathrooms, a library, a home theater, and of course the music room. The music room was Marcus's favorite place in the whole house, even though he rarely got to go inside. It had deep red walls, tall shelves filled with music books, beautiful paintings of composers, and in the center, under a crystal chandelier, sat the grand piano. Marcus had only touched that piano once. It was 3 years ago. The Hartfords were away on vacation. Elena was cleaning the music room. Marcus was supposed to be doing homework, but he wandered in. His mother was dusting the shelves on the far side of the room. Marcus walked slowly to the piano. His heart was beating so fast. He reached out one finger and pressed middle C. The sound was beautiful, so rich, so pure, nothing like his little keyboard. He pressed another key, then another. He started to play a simple melody he had learned. For just 30 seconds, Marcus felt like he belonged in that room, like he was meant to play that instrument. Then Elena turned around. She gasped. Her face went pale with fear. She rushed over and grabbed Marcus's hand away from the keys. She did not yell. She never yelled, but her voice was tight and scared. She told him never to touch the piano again. Never. If the Hartfords found out, she could lose her job. They needed this job. They needed the money. Marcus understood. He never touched the piano again, but he never stopped dreaming about it. Today was an important day in the Hartford household. Sebastian had a big performance coming up in 2 weeks. A director from the National Music Conservatory was coming to hear him play. This was Sebastian's chance to get accepted into one of the best music schools in the country. Everyone in the house was tense and excited. Victoria Hartford, Sebastian's mother, had been planning this showcase for months. She invited important people from the music world. She hired caterers. She bought Sebastian a new suit. She talked about nothing else. Victoria had studied music when she was young. She never became a professional musician, but she loved classical music. She wanted her son to achieve what she had not. Richard Hartford, Sebastian's father, was a businessman. He made his money in real estate. He did not understand music the way his wife did, but he understood success. He understood achievement. He wanted his son to be the best. He paid for the best teachers, the best piano, the best opportunities. In return, he expected Sebastian to be perfect. The pressure was enormous. Marcus could see it in Sebastian's face when he passed him in the hallways. Sebastian looked tired, stressed, sometimes angry. Marcus felt sorry for him. Yes, Sebastian had everything, but he also had all those expectations crushing down on him. Marcus finished his math homework. He put his pencil down. The music had started again. Sebastian was playing the Chopin piece once more. This time it sounded better, smoother, more confident. Marcus closed his eyes and listened. His fingers moved slightly on the table, following along with the melody. He knew exactly what Sebastian was playing. He had memorized this piece weeks ago. Elena walked into the kitchen. She looked tired. She always looked tired. She worked hard every day to keep this massive house clean. She smiled when she saw Marcus. Her smile made everything feel better. "Are you done with your homework?" she asked in their native language. They spoke Mandarin at home, though Elena's English was quite good after so many years in America. "Yes, Mom," Marcus replied. "Just finished. Good boy. We will go home soon. I just need to prepare dinner for the Hartfords." Marcus nodded. He watched his mother move around the kitchen. She was only 42 years old, but sometimes she looked older. The hard work aged her. Her hands were rough from cleaning. Her back hurt from bending and lifting, but she never complained. She did this for him, so he could have a better life, so he could go to college, so he could have opportunities she never had. The music stopped again. Marcus heard voices. Sebastian was talking to his mother in the music room. They were discussing the showcase. Victoria's voice was excited. She was describing which pieces Sebastian would play. The Chopin, then some Rachmaninoff, and finally, the piece that was giving Sebastian trouble, a difficult work by Liszt. Marcus had heard Sebastian struggle with the Liszt piece for weeks. It was incredibly hard. Fast notes, big jumps, complex rhythms. Sebastian could play most of it, but there was one section that always gave him problems. His timing was off. The notes did not flow together smoothly. Marcus had listened to recordings of that Liszt piece online. He had studied it. He had practiced it on his keyboard at home. He knew he could play it. He understood the rhythm that Sebastian was missing. But of course no one would ever know that. No one would ever hear him play. That was just his private dream. Sebastian came into the kitchen. He went straight to the refrigerator and took out a bottle of water. He did not look at Marcus. He rarely did. Marcus was invisible to Sebastian. Just the maid's son. Not important. Not worth noticing. But today Sebastian seemed more stressed than usual. He drank the water quickly. He ran his hand through his hair. He looked frustrated. "This piece is impossible," Sebastian muttered to himself. He was not talking to Marcus. He was just thinking out loud. How did Liszt expect anyone to play this? Marcus almost said something. He almost told Sebastian what he had figured out about the rhythm. But he stopped himself. What would be the point? Sebastian would not listen to him. Sebastian would probably laugh at him. The maid's son giving advice to a trained pianist? That was ridiculous. Sebastian left the kitchen without another word. Marcus heard him go upstairs to his room. The music was done for the day. Elena started preparing dinner. She moved quickly and efficiently. She had done this so many times she did not need to think about it. Marcus helped her when she asked. He chopped vegetables. He set the table in the dining room. He stayed quiet and tried not to be in the way. That evening, as they rode the bus home, Marcus stared out the window. The city lights passed by in a blur. His mother sat beside him, her head resting against the window. She was so tired. Marcus felt a familiar anger rise in his chest. It was not fair. His mother worked so hard. She gave everything for that family, and they barely noticed her. She was just the housekeeper, just the help. But Marcus pushed the anger down. Getting angry did not help. It did not change anything. Instead, he thought about the music. He thought about the Liszt piece. He thought about that beautiful grand piano. He thought about his dream. When they got home, Marcus went straight to his room. He turned on his little keyboard. He put on his headphones. And he played. He played the Chopin that Sebastian had practiced. He played the Rachmaninoff, and then he played the Liszt piece. The difficult one. He played it perfectly. His fingers flew across the keys. The rhythm was exact. The emotion was real. In that moment in his tiny bedroom, Marcus was not the maid's son. He was not poor. He was not invisible. He was a pianist. And he was good. Maybe even great. But nobody knew. Nobody would ever know. Or so he thought. Because in 2 days, everything would change. In 2 days, Marcus would make a choice that would shock everyone. A choice that would make them laugh at first. But then their laughter would die, and they would finally see him. Really see him. For the first time in his life. 2 days later, the Hartford mansion was busier than usual. Victoria Hartford was rushing around giving orders. The showcase was coming up soon, and Sebastian needed to practice more. There were meetings with caterers, phone calls with the conservatory director, a million details to arrange. Marcus sat in his usual spot at the kitchen table. It was Saturday, so he did not have school. His mother had to work because the Hartfords needed extra help preparing for the big event. Marcus brought his homework with him. He also brought a book about music theory that he had checked out from the library. Sebastian was in a terrible mood. Marcus could hear him playing the same section of the Liszt piece over and over. Each time he played it, he made mistakes. Each time he made mistakes, he got more frustrated. Finally, Sebastian slammed his hands on the keys. The harsh sound echoed through the house. "I cannot do this," Sebastian shouted. His voice carried all the way to the kitchen. "This section is impossible." Marcus looked up from his book. He knew exactly which section Sebastian meant. It was the part that required a specific rhythm. The left hand and right hand had to play in a complicated pattern. They did not line up in the normal way. It was tricky. But once you understood the pattern, it became easier. Marcus had figured it out weeks ago. He had practiced it many times on his keyboard. He knew the secret. The left hand had to think in groups of 3 while the right hand thought in groups of 4. Once you felt that pattern in your body, the notes would fall into place. Victoria Hartford rushed into the music room. Marcus could hear her talking to Sebastian. She was trying to calm him down. She suggested they call his piano teacher for an extra lesson. Sebastian said no. He said he just needed a break. He needed to clear his head. Sebastian stormed out of the music room. He walked past the kitchen without looking at Marcus. He went out the back door into the garden. Marcus watched him through the window. Sebastian paced back and forth. He looked angry and scared at the same time. Elena came into the kitchen. She was carrying cleaning supplies. She looked worried. She had heard Sebastian's outburst too. "That poor boy," she said softly in Mandarin. "So much pressure on him." Marcus did not respond. He did not feel sorry for Sebastian right now. Sebastian had everything. The best piano, the best teachers, all the time in the world to practice. And he still complained. Marcus practiced on a broken keyboard with missing keys. He taught himself everything, and he never complained. But Marcus kept these thoughts to himself. His mother would not understand. She saw the Hartfords as good people who gave her a job. She was grateful to them. Marcus was grateful too, in a way. But he also felt something else. Something he could not quite name. It was like wanting something so badly that it hurt. The afternoon passed slowly. Sebastian stayed in the garden for a long time. Then he went to his room. He did not come back to practice. The house was quieter than usual. Even Victoria seemed worried. She made several phone calls. She spoke in hushed tones about Sebastian's stress and whether they should postpone the showcase. As evening approached, Richard Hartford came home from work. He was a tall man with gray hair and expensive suits. He always looked serious and busy. He went straight to find his wife. Marcus heard them talking in the study. Their voices were low, but he could tell they were concerned about Sebastian. Then something unexpected happened. Richard and Victoria had invited some friends over for dinner. They did this sometimes. They would have business associates or friends from their social circle come to the mansion for an evening meal. Tonight, 4 people were coming. Elena had to prepare a fancy dinner. Marcus helped his mother in the kitchen. He washed vegetables. He set the fancy plates on the dining room table. He tried to stay out of the way when the guests arrived. The guests were well dressed. 2 couples. They talked about art and business and travel. They drank wine. They laughed at jokes that Marcus did not understand. He heard them mention the upcoming showcase. They were excited to hear Sebastian play. One of the women was named Margaret Rothstein. She was older, maybe 65. She had gray hair pulled back in an elegant style. She wore a simple but expensive-looking dress. Marcus overheard Victoria telling the others that Margaret used to be a famous concert pianist. Now she was retired and taught only a few special students. The dinner went well. Elena's cooking was perfect as always. After the meal, the guests moved to the sitting room for coffee and desserts. Sebastian joined them. He seemed calmer now. He talked politely with the guests. He smiled when Margaret asked him about his music. Then Richard suggested that Sebastian play something for their guests. Sebastian hesitated. He said he was tired from practicing all day. But Victoria encouraged him. The guests applauded the idea. Finally, Sebastian agreed. They all moved to the music room. The grand piano waited there, shining under the chandelier. The guests sat on the elegant sofas. Sebastian sat at the piano. He chose to play the Chopin piece, the one he was confident with, the one that did not give him trouble. Marcus was cleaning up the dining room, but he could hear everything. Sebastian played beautifully. The Chopin piece sounded wonderful. The guests applauded when he finished. They praised his talent. They said he would surely be accepted to the conservatory. Then Margaret asked if Sebastian would play the piece he was preparing for the showcase. The Liszt piece. Sebastian's face changed. He looked uncomfortable. He said he was still working on it. It was not ready yet, but Margaret was persistent. She said she would love to hear it even if it was not perfect. She could perhaps offer some advice. Finally, Sebastian gave in. He could not refuse a former concert pianist. Sebastian began to play the Liszt piece. It started well. The first sections were good, but then he reached the difficult part, the part he had been struggling with all day. His hands fumbled. The rhythm was wrong. He tried to keep going, but he made more mistakes. Finally, he stopped. His face was red with embarrassment. "I am sorry," he said quietly. "This section is very difficult for me." The guests were kind. They said it was a challenging piece. They said he had time to learn it. But Marcus could see that Sebastian was humiliated. His hands were shaking slightly. Marcus had finished cleaning the dining room. He should have gone to the kitchen. He should have stayed invisible like always. But something inside him stirred. Maybe it was all the years of hiding his gift. Maybe it was watching Sebastian struggle with something Marcus knew he could play. Maybe it was just being 17 and tired of being invisible. Marcus did not plan what happened next. He did not think it through. He just acted. He walked toward the music room. His heart was pounding. Elena was in the kitchen and did not see him. The guests were still talking to Sebastian, trying to make him feel better. Marcus stood in the doorway of the music room. Nobody noticed him at first. Then Victoria looked up. She saw Marcus standing there. Her expression showed surprise and a little annoyance. Who was this boy interrupting their private gathering? Yes, Victoria said. Do you need something? Marcus's mouth was dry. His hands were sweating. But he had started this. He had to continue. I can play it, Marcus said. His voice was quieter than he wanted. The section that is difficult. I can play it. There was a moment of complete silence. Everyone stared at Marcus. Sebastian turned around on the piano bench. His face showed confusion. Excuse me? Richard Hartford said. His voice was cold. What did you say? Marcus took a breath. He stepped into the room. He felt like he was watching himself from far away, like this was happening to someone else. The Liszt piece, Marcus said, louder this time. The part that is difficult. I know how to play it. Sebastian stood up. He looked at Marcus like he had never seen him before. Maybe he had not. Maybe Marcus had always been invisible. You? Sebastian said. You play piano? Marcus nodded. He could not speak now. His courage was fading. What had he done? Why had he opened his mouth? Then someone laughed. It was one of the dinner guests, one of the men. He chuckled and shook his head. This is Elena's son, right? He said to Richard. Yes, Richard said. His voice was tight with anger. Marcus, you need to leave this room right now. But Margaret Rothstein raised her hand. She was looking at Marcus with curiosity. Wait, she said. Let the boy explain. Where did you learn to play piano? Marcus felt all their eyes on him. Some looked amused. Some looked annoyed. Sebastian looked shocked and angry, but Margaret looked genuinely interested. I taught myself, Marcus said. His voice shook a little. I have a keyboard at home. I listen and I practice. I have been learning for years. Another person laughed. This time it was the other man. Self-taught on a keyboard, he said. And you think you can play Liszt? The woman next to him giggled. This is quite entertaining, she whispered, but loud enough for everyone to hear. Sebastian's face was red now, red with embarrassment and anger. This is ridiculous, he said. Playing on a toy keyboard is nothing like playing a real piano. Real piano takes years of study, proper technique, theory. You cannot just listen to music and play it. Marcus felt his face getting hot. He knew he should leave. He knew he had made a terrible mistake. But another part of him was angry now. Angry at the laughter. Angry at being dismissed so easily. I can play it, Marcus said again. This time his voice was stronger. Let me try. Just once. Richard Hartford stood up. Absolutely not, he said firmly. Marcus, this is inappropriate. You need to leave right now. And tomorrow we need to have a serious conversation with your mother about boundaries. Fear shot through Marcus. His mother. They would punish his mother for this. She would lose her job because of him. What had he done? But then Marcus heard his own voice say something that shocked even himself. Something bold. Something that would change everything. I will make you a deal, Marcus said. He was speaking fast now before he lost his nerve. Play any piece for me. Any piece at all. Let me hear it one time. Just one time. Then I will play it back for you. If I cannot do it, I will apologize and never speak of music again. But if I can do it, then you have to let me play the difficult section of the Liszt piece, to show you that I can help. The room was silent again. This was crazy. Everyone knew it was crazy. You could not just hear a piece once and play it back. That was impossible. Even trained musicians needed sheet music. They needed practice time. This boy was either lying or delusional. Sebastian stared at Marcus. His shock was turning into something else now. Anger, and maybe a little fear. What if this boy really could do it? What would that mean? This is absurd, Sebastian said. But his voice was not quite steady. Margaret leaned forward. She was smiling slightly. Actually, she said, I would like to see this. It is an interesting claim. Richard started to protest, but Margaret cut him off gently. Oh, come now, Richard. What harm could it do? The boy will fail, he will be embarrassed, and that will be the end of it. But at least we will have an amusing story to tell. The other guests murmured agreement. They were smiling. This was entertainment for them, watching the maid's son humiliate himself. It would be something to laugh about later at their fancy parties. Victoria looked uncertain. She glanced at her husband, then at Sebastian, then at Margaret. Finally, she nodded. Fine, she said. Sebastian, choose something. Something difficult. Let us see if this boy can really do what he claims. Sebastian walked slowly back to the piano. His mind was racing. What should he choose? Something impossible. Something that would prove this was all nonsense. He thought about his music library. What piece would be hardest to remember? Hardest to play after hearing just once? Then he had an idea. A piece he had been working on last month. A section from Prokofiev's Piano Concerto No. 2. It was incredibly difficult. Fast notes, big chords, complex rhythms that did not follow normal patterns. And it had Sebastian's own interpretations in it, his own small changes to the dynamics and phrasing. No way could this boy copy those. Fine, Sebastian said. He sat at the piano. I will play a section from Prokofiev. 2 minutes. Pay attention. Marcus stood near the piano. His legs felt weak. His heart was beating so hard he thought everyone could hear it. What had he done? Could he really do this? He had never played a real piano before. What if his keyboard practice had not prepared him? What if he failed in front of all these people? But it was too late now. Sebastian was already placing his hands on the keys. The room went quiet. Even the people who had been laughing were silent now. They wanted to see this. Sebastian began to play. The sound that came from the piano was powerful. The Prokofiev piece was not gentle or pretty. It was strong and dramatic. Sebastian's hands moved quickly across the keys. Big chords crashed down. Fast runs of notes flew up and down the piano. The rhythm was complex and unusual. It did not follow a simple pattern. Marcus closed his eyes. He let the music fill his mind. This was what he always did when he was learning a new piece. He did not think about individual notes. He let the whole thing flow into him like water. The melody, the harmony, the rhythm, the feeling. All of it together. He noticed everything. The way Sebastian started soft and then built up to louder sections. The way certain notes were held just a little longer for emphasis. The way Sebastian's left hand played bass notes that seemed to fight against what the right hand was doing. It was brilliant and chaotic at the same time. The piece was difficult. Marcus could tell that Sebastian had worked hard on it. The technical skill was impressive. But Marcus also noticed something. Sebastian was playing it correctly, but there was something missing. The notes were right. The timing was mostly right. But the emotion felt controlled, safe, like Sebastian was afraid to let go and really feel the music. 2 minutes passed quickly. Sebastian played the final chord and lifted his hands from the keys. He turned to look at Marcus. His face showed confidence now. He had played well, he knew it. There was no way this boy could copy what he had just done. The guests were quiet for a moment. Then they applauded politely. "Beautiful, Sebastian," Victoria said. She smiled at her son with pride. Margaret Rothstein nodded. "Very technically accomplished," she said. But Marcus noticed that she did not sound as impressed as the others. She was looking at Marcus now with those curious eyes. "Well?" Richard Hartford said to Marcus. His voice was impatient. "You heard it. Now admit that you cannot possibly play that back and we can all move on with our evening." Marcus opened his eyes. His hands were trembling, not from fear anymore, from something else, from the need to play. The music was inside him now. It wanted to come out. His fingers were already moving slightly, practicing the patterns in the air. "I can do it," Marcus said quietly. Someone snorted with laughter. Marcus did not see who. He was walking toward the piano. Sebastian stood up from the bench. He moved aside but stayed close. He wanted to see this failure up close. Marcus stood in front of the piano bench. The grand piano. The instrument he had dreamed about for years. He had only touched it once before, years ago, for just a few seconds before his mother stopped him. Now he was about to really play it. He sat down slowly. The bench felt different from his small keyboard stool at home. The piano was huge. So many keys. All of them real. All of them working. Not like his keyboard with the 3 broken keys. He placed his hands on the keys. The surface was smooth and cool. He touched them gently, barely pressing down. The sensation was incredible. This was a real piano. A real beautiful piano. "We are waiting," Richard said. His voice was hard. He was angry about this whole situation. Angry that this boy had interrupted their pleasant evening. Angry that his son was being challenged by the housekeeper's child. Marcus took a breath. He closed his eyes again. He saw the music in his mind. He felt the rhythm in his body. And then he began to play. The first notes came out strong and clear. The sound was so different from his keyboard. So rich, so alive. Marcus felt electricity run through his body. This was what music was supposed to sound like. This was what he had been dreaming of. His hands moved across the keys. The fast runs that Sebastian had played. Marcus played them. The big chords. Marcus played them. The complex rhythm. Marcus felt it. His left hand and right hand worked independently, just like Sebastian's had. The notes that seemed to fight each other. Marcus let them fight, but something else happened too. Something Marcus did not plan. As he played, he did not just copy Sebastian's version. He added something. He let himself feel the music more deeply. The anger and frustration he had felt for years. The longing. The dreams that seemed impossible. All of it poured into the music. Where Sebastian had been controlled, Marcus was free. Where Sebastian had played it safe, Marcus took risks. He made some parts softer than Sebastian had. He made other parts louder. He let certain notes sing out. He let the rhythm breathe. The room was completely silent except for the piano. Nobody was laughing now. Nobody was smiling. They were all frozen, watching this boy play. This boy who was not supposed to be able to do this. Sebastian's face had gone pale. He stood beside the piano, his mouth slightly open. He was watching Marcus's hands. Those hands were doing what Sebastian's hands did. But they were also doing something more. Something Sebastian recognized but did not fully understand. Margaret Rothstein was leaning forward in her seat. Her eyes were wide. She was not just listening. She was analyzing. She was understanding what was happening. This boy had not just memorized the notes. He had absorbed the entire piece, and now he was making it his own. Marcus reached the final chord. He played it strong and clear. Then he lifted his hands from the keys. The sound faded slowly in the room. The silence that followed was profound. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Marcus sat at the piano, his hands still raised slightly, his breathing fast. He had done it. He had really done it. He had played a real piano, and it was everything he had dreamed it would be. The first person to break the silence was Elena. Marcus had not known she was there, but she had heard the music from the kitchen. She had come to the music room doorway. She stood there now, her hand over her mouth, tears in her eyes. She had never heard her son play before. She had never known he could do this. "Oh my God," one of the guests whispered. It was the woman who had giggled before. She was not giggling now. Margaret Rothstein stood up slowly. She walked toward the piano. Her face was serious. She looked at Marcus like she was seeing something rare and important. "How long have you been playing?" she asked. Her voice was gentle but intense. "About 5 years," Marcus said. His voice was hoarse. "On my keyboard at home." "And you have never had lessons? Never studied with a teacher?" Marcus shook his head. "No, ma'am. Just videos online. Books from the library. And listening." Margaret turned to look at Sebastian. "You played that piece beautifully," she said to him. "Your technique is excellent. Your precision is admirable." Then she turned back to Marcus. "But this boy played it with his soul." Sebastian's face flushed red. The compliment and the criticism all at once. He did not know what to say. Richard Hartford was standing now too. He looked confused and uncomfortable. "I don't understand," he said. "How is this possible?" "It is called musical gift," Margaret said. "Some people have it. Most do not. This boy has it in abundance." Victoria was staring at Marcus like she had never seen him before. In a way, she had not. He had always been invisible. Just the maid's son. Someone who existed in the background of her life. Now suddenly he was real. And talented. Very talented. "You said you would play the Liszt section," Sebastian said suddenly. His voice was tight. "If you could play back what I played..." "Well, you did. So now play the Liszt. Show us you can do that too." There was a challenge in Sebastian's voice. Maybe even some desperation. He needed to prove that Marcus was not better than him. That this was just a trick. That real trained skill still mattered more than raw talent. Marcus looked at Sebastian. He saw the fear and anger in the older boy's eyes. Marcus understood. Sebastian's whole identity was built on being the talented one, the special one. The one who would go to the conservatory and become a famous pianist. Now a boy with no training and a broken keyboard had just played as well as him. Maybe better. "Okay," Marcus said quietly. "I will play the section that is difficult for you." He did not say it to be mean. He just stated the fact, but the words hung in the air. "The section that is difficult for you." The implication was clear. It was not difficult for Marcus. Marcus turned back to the piano. He did not need sheet music. He had memorized the Liszt piece weeks ago. He had practiced it countless times on his keyboard. He knew every note, every rhythm, every feeling. He began to play. The difficult section that Sebastian had been struggling with all day. The section where the left hand and right hand played in different time signatures. 3 against 4. It was a rhythm that confused many pianists. But Marcus understood it. He felt it in his body. His left hand thought in groups of 3 beats. His right hand thought in groups of 4 beats. They worked together but independently. The notes flowed smoothly. The rhythm was perfect. There were no fumbles, no mistakes. He played for about a minute, just the difficult section and a little bit around it to give context. When he finished, he looked up at Sebastian. "The trick is to feel each hand separately," Marcus said. "Do not try to make them match. Let them be different. That is what makes it work." Sebastian stared at him. Marcus had just given him advice. The maid's son had just taught him something about music, something his expensive teachers had not been able to explain as clearly. The other guests were murmuring to each other now. They were shocked, impressed, maybe a little uncomfortable. This was not what they had expected when they came for dinner tonight. Richard Hartford walked over to his wife. They spoke in low voices. Marcus could not hear what they were saying, but he could see their faces. They were having some kind of argument or serious discussion. Margaret approached Marcus at the piano. She smiled at him warmly. "Young man," she said, "what is your name?" "Marcus Chen," he replied. "Marcus, have you ever thought about studying music seriously? With a real teacher?" Marcus felt his throat tighten. "Every day," he said honestly. "I think about it every day, but—" He glanced at his mother, who was still standing in the doorway. "We cannot afford lessons." Margaret nodded slowly. She understood. She had taught for many years. She had seen talented students who could not afford to study. It was always a tragedy. "What if money was not an issue?" Margaret asked. "Would you want to study seriously? Would you be willing to work hard?" Marcus's heart began to pound. "Yes," he said immediately. "More than anything." Sebastian made a sound, almost like a laugh, but bitter. "So what?" he said. "You can play by ear. That is a party trick. Real musicians have to study theory, history, composition. You do not know any of that." "I know some," Marcus said quietly. "I have been reading books, learning what I can." "Books," Sebastian repeated. "That is not the same as real study." Margaret turned to Sebastian. Her face was kind but firm. "Sebastian, you are right that formal education is important, but you are wrong about something. This is not a party trick. What Marcus has is genuine musical intelligence, the kind that cannot be taught. You have been given many advantages. Excellent teachers, unlimited access to a beautiful instrument. That is wonderful, but do not dismiss someone else's gift just because it makes you uncomfortable." Sebastian looked away. His jaw was tight. Marcus almost felt sorry for him again. Almost. Richard and Victoria finished their conversation. Richard turned to address the room. "This has been an unusual evening," he said. His voice was controlled, but Marcus could hear the strain in it. "I think perhaps it is time for everyone to finish their coffee and wind down for the night." It was a polite way of asking the guests to leave. The dinner party was over. Everyone understood. They collected their things. They said their goodbyes. They were polite, but Marcus could see them looking at him with new eyes. He was no longer invisible. As Margaret was leaving, she stopped and spoke to Victoria. "May I have Marcus's contact information?" she asked. "I would like to speak with him and his mother about some possibilities." Victoria looked surprised, but she nodded. She wrote down Elena's phone number on a piece of paper and gave it to Margaret. When all the guests had left, the Hartford family stood in the entrance hall. Sebastian went upstairs without saying anything. His footsteps were heavy on the stairs. Marcus heard his bedroom door close firmly. Richard turned to Elena. His face was serious. "Elena, we need to talk about what happened tonight." Elena looked terrified. She bowed her head. "I am so sorry, Mr. Hartford. Marcus should not have interrupted your evening. I will speak to him. It will not happen again." "Mom, no," Marcus said. "This is not your fault. I made the choice. I interrupted. If you are angry, be angry at me." Richard looked at Marcus for a long moment. His expression was hard to read. "You are talented," he said finally. "That is clear. But you embarrassed my son tonight. In front of our friends. That was not appropriate." "I did not mean to embarrass anyone," Marcus said. "I just wanted to show that I could help. That I understood the music." "Helping is not the same as showing off," Richard said coldly. "Richard," Victoria said softly. She put her hand on her husband's arm. "Perhaps we should all take some time to think about this. It has been an emotional evening." Richard looked at his wife, then nodded. Elena, you and Marcus should go home now. We will discuss this another time. Elena grabbed Marcus's arm. She pulled him toward the door. They collected their things quickly. As they left the mansion, Marcus looked back once. He saw Victoria standing in the doorway watching them leave. Her face showed confusion and something else. Maybe respect. Maybe fear. Maybe both. On the bus ride home, Elena was quiet. Marcus could not tell if she was angry or sad or both. Finally, she spoke.
Why did you do that?
She asked in Mandarin. Her voice was shaking. Why did you risk my job? I am sorry, Mom, Marcus said. I could not stay silent anymore. I am tired of being invisible. Elena looked at him. Tears were in her eyes. We are invisible because we have to be, she said. That is how we survive. That is how I keep my job and put food on the table and save money for your college. I know, Marcus said, but maybe we do not have to be invisible anymore. That woman, Margaret, she wants to talk to us. Maybe something good can come from this. Elena shook her head. Rich people's promises are like clouds. They look solid from far away, but when you reach for them, there is nothing there. Marcus did not argue. He knew his mother had been disappointed before. She had learned not to hope too much. But Marcus was young. He still had hope. And tonight, for the first time in his life, people had seen him. Really seen him. Not as the maid's son, but as Marcus, as a musician. He had played a real piano, the most beautiful piano he had ever touched, and he had shown them all what he could do. Whatever happened next, no one could take that away from him. For one night, he had been visible, and it felt like flying. 3 days passed. 3 long, difficult days. Elena went to work at the Hartford mansion every day, but the atmosphere was cold. Victoria Hartford barely spoke to her. Richard Hartford avoided looking at her. Sebastian stayed in his room most of the time or left the house early. Marcus stayed home. He went to school and did his homework. He practiced on his keyboard. But everything felt different now. He could not stop thinking about that night, about the grand piano, about the way the music had felt when he played a real instrument. It was like tasting real food after eating cardboard your whole life. His mother came home exhausted each night. She did not talk much. Marcus knew she was worried about losing her job. He felt terrible guilt. His one moment of courage might cost his mother everything. On the 3rd night, Elena's phone rang. She looked at the caller ID. Her face went pale. It is Mrs. Rothstein, she said to Marcus. The woman from the dinner party. Marcus's heart jumped. Answer it, Mom. Elena hesitated, then answered. Hello? She listened, saying little. Her face was hard to read. Finally, she said, yes, okay. Tomorrow at 3. Thank you. She hung up. What did she say? Marcus asked. She wants to meet us tomorrow. At a cafe downtown. She wants to talk about your music. Marcus felt excitement and fear mixed together. Are you going to go? Elena sighed. I do not know. These people, Marcus, they live in a different world. What could she really want with us? Maybe she wants to help. She was a famous pianist. Maybe she sees something in me. And maybe she just wants to feel good about herself by promising things she will not deliver, Elena said. But her voice was softer now, less angry. She was tired of being angry. The next day, Elena took time off from work. She told Victoria Hartford she had a doctor's appointment. It was a lie, but she felt she had no choice. She and Marcus took 2 buses to get downtown. They arrived at the cafe 15 minutes early. The cafe was nice. Not too fancy, but clean and comfortable. They sat at a table near the window. Marcus was wearing his best clothes, a button-up shirt and clean jeans. Elena wore a simple dress. They both felt nervous. Margaret Rothstein arrived exactly at 3. She saw them and smiled. She walked over with confidence and grace. She was wearing casual clothes, but somehow she still looked elegant. Thank you for meeting me, Margaret said as she sat down. Please order whatever you like. I am buying. They ordered coffee and some pastries. At first, they made small talk. Margaret asked Marcus about school, about his interests besides music. She was easy to talk to, not like the other rich people Marcus had met. She seemed genuinely interested. Then she got to the point. Marcus, I have been thinking about your playing, she said. What you did the other night was extraordinary. Not just the technical ability to reproduce music after one hearing, but the musicality, the feeling you put into it. That is rare. Very rare. Marcus did not know what to say. He just nodded. I want to offer you something, Margaret continued. I want to teach you privately, for free. Elena's eyes widened. Free? She repeated. Why would you do that? Margaret smiled. Because I have been teaching piano for 40 years. I have taught many students. Some were talented. Some were hard-working. But only a few had real gift. The kind of gift that makes you stop and listen. Marcus has that gift, and I am old now. I do not teach many students anymore. But when I see someone with real potential, I cannot turn away. What would this mean? Elena asked carefully. How many lessons? For how long? 2 lessons per week to start, Margaret said. Each lesson would be 90 minutes. I would teach him technique, theory, music history, everything he needs to know. I would also help him prepare to audition for music schools. If he is serious about this, he could have a real career. Marcus felt like his heart would burst. This was everything he had dreamed of. But he looked at his mother. She looked worried. We cannot pay you, Elena said quietly. Not now. Maybe someday, but not now. I do not want payment, Margaret said firmly. I want to teach someone who truly loves music. Someone who will work hard. Someone who will use what I teach them. That is payment enough for me. She turned to Marcus. But you need to understand something. This will not be easy. You have talent, yes. But talent is only the beginning. You will have to practice many hours every day. You will have to study theory and history. You will have to unlearn some bad habits you might have developed teaching yourself. Are you willing to do that? Yes, Marcus said immediately. Yes, I will do whatever it takes. Margaret studied his face. Then she nodded. I believe you. She reached into her bag and pulled out a card. This is my address. Can you come this Saturday at 10 in the morning? For your first lesson? Marcus looked at his mother. Elena was quiet for a long moment. Marcus could see her thinking, worrying, hoping, fearing. Okay, Elena said finally. He will be there. Margaret smiled. Good, there is one more thing. She pulled out another card. This is the name and number of someone at the National Music Conservatory. He is a friend of mine. I called him and told him about Marcus. He wants to hear him play. If Marcus does well, there might be scholarship opportunities. Marcus felt dizzy. This was too much, too good. Things like this did not happen to people like him. They talked for a while longer. Margaret explained what Marcus should bring to the first lesson, what he should start thinking about. She was kind, but also serious. She made it clear that this was not charity. This was an opportunity that Marcus would have to earn every day. When they left the cafe, Elena was quiet. They walked to the bus stop together. Finally, she spoke. This is real, isn't it? She said. This is really happening. I think so, Mom, Marcus said. His voice was shaking with emotion. Elena stopped walking. She turned to Marcus. Tears were running down her face. I am sorry, she said. I am sorry I did not know you could play like this. I am sorry I could not give you lessons before. I am sorry for so many things. Marcus hugged his mother. You gave me everything, he said. You worked hard every day so I could have a chance. Now I have a chance, and it is because of you. They held each other for a long moment on the busy street. People walked past them, but neither of them cared. That Saturday, Marcus took the bus to Margaret's house. It was a nice house in a quiet neighborhood. Not a mansion like the Hartfords, but comfortable. When she opened the door, she led him to a room that was clearly set up for teaching. There was a beautiful grand piano, shelves full of music books, a comfortable chair for the teacher. This is where we will work, Margaret said. This is where you will learn to become not just a player, but a musician. For the next 90 minutes, Margaret assessed Marcus's skills. She had him play scales, arpeggios, different pieces he knew. She asked him questions about music theory. She watched how his hands moved, how he sat, how he breathed. When the lesson ended, she was quiet for a moment. Then she said, You have a lot to learn. Your technique has some problems. Your understanding of theory is incomplete. But Marcus, I have not seen raw talent like yours in 20 years. If you work hard, really hard, you could be special. Marcus felt tears in his eyes. Thank you, he whispered. Thank you for believing in me. Over the next few weeks, Marcus's life changed completely. He went to school. He did his homework. And then he practiced piano for 4 hours every night. Margaret had given him exercises to do, pieces to learn, books to read. He attacked all of it with fierce dedication. His fingers started to hurt. His back ached from sitting at the keyboard for so long, but he did not care. Every moment of pain was worth it. He was learning so much. Margaret was teaching him things he had never known. The technical names for what he had been doing by instinct. The history behind the music. The proper way to move his hands to avoid injury. Meanwhile, Elena continued working at the Hartford mansion. The atmosphere was still strange. Sebastian was preparing for his showcase, which was now only 1 week away. He practiced constantly. Victoria was stressed and anxious. Richard was distant. One day, Victoria called Elena into the sitting room. Elena went, her heart pounding. Was this it? Was she being fired? But Victoria's face was not angry. It was complicated, sad and confused and something else. Elena, Victoria said, I owe you an apology. Elena was so surprised she almost could not speak. Ma'am, your son is very talented. I did not know. I should have known. You have worked for us for 15 years. You have been loyal and hardworking, and I never once asked about your life, about your son, about what he liked or what he dreamed about. I treated you like furniture, something useful that I did not need to think about. Elena did not know what to say. She had never heard Victoria talk like this. I have been thinking a lot since that night, Victoria continued, about my son, about your son. Sebastian has been given everything, the best teachers, the best instrument, every advantage. And still your son, who taught himself on a broken keyboard, played with more heart than Sebastian. She paused. That is not Marcus's fault, and it is not fair for me to be angry about it. But I am struggling with it. Do you understand? Elena nodded slowly. Yes, ma'am. I understand. Sebastian is struggling too. He is angry, embarrassed, scared. He is worried that at his showcase everyone will be thinking about Marcus, about what they saw that night. My son did not mean to hurt anyone, Elena said quietly. He just wanted to be seen. I know, Victoria said. And that is what makes this so hard. He was not trying to be cruel. He was just being honest, being himself. And somehow that threatens everything Sebastian has built his identity around. Victoria stood up and walked to the window. Margaret Rothstein called me. She told me she is teaching Marcus. She also told me that she has arranged for him to audition at the conservatory, the same conservatory where Sebastian is applying. Elena felt her stomach drop. I did not know she had already arranged it. It is fine, Victoria said. Marcus deserves the opportunity. But Elena, I need to ask you something. The showcase is in 1 week. Could you and Marcus not come? I know you were planning to help that day, but I think it would be better if Marcus was not there. For Sebastian's sake, Elena understood. They did not want Marcus there as a reminder, as a comparison. Of course, she said. Marcus will not come. Thank you, Victoria said. She turned back from the window. For what it is worth, I hope Marcus does well at his audition. I really do. Elena left the sitting room with mixed feelings. Part of her was angry. Angry that they wanted to hide Marcus away. Angry that Sebastian's feelings mattered more than her son's achievements. But another part of her understood. She was a mother too. She knew what it felt like to want to protect your child. That evening, Elena told Marcus about the conversation. He was disappointed that he could not go to the showcase. He had wanted to hear Sebastian play the full program. But he also understood. It is okay, Mom, he said. I do not need to go. I have my own audition to prepare for. The audition. It was scheduled for 2 weeks after Sebastian's showcase. Margaret had submitted recordings of Marcus playing. The conservatory director had been impressed. Impressed enough to offer Marcus a chance to audition in person for a full scholarship. Marcus practiced even harder. Margaret increased their lessons to 3 times per week. She brought other teachers to hear Marcus play. They all said the same thing. He was raw and untrained in some ways, but the gift was undeniable. The night of Sebastian's showcase arrived. Marcus stayed home and practiced. But he thought about Sebastian, about the pressure he must be feeling, about performing in front of all those important people. Marcus hoped Sebastian would do well. Despite everything, he did not wish failure on anyone. He knew how hard it was to play when everyone was watching. The next day, Elena came home from work looking thoughtful. Marcus asked how the showcase went. It was beautiful, Elena said. Sebastian played very well. The conservatory director was impressed. He will probably be accepted. That is good, Marcus said, and he meant it. But something happened, Elena continued. After all the guests left, Sebastian came to the kitchen where I was cleaning up. He talked to me. What did he say? He asked about you. He asked if you were still taking lessons with Margaret. I told him yes. He was quiet for a minute. Then he said something I did not expect. What? He said, tell Marcus I have been working on the list piece. I figured out the rhythm. He was right about letting each hand think separately. Then he just walked away. Marcus sat with that information. Sebastian had taken his advice. Sebastian had admitted in his own way that Marcus had helped him. Maybe, Marcus thought, this did not have to be a competition. Maybe two people could both be good. Both be talented. Both succeed. But he also knew that the world did not always work that way. In 2 weeks, he would audition for the conservatory. The same conservatory where Sebastian wanted to go. There were limited spots, limited scholarships. They might end up competing whether they wanted to or not. Marcus pushed the thought away. He could not worry about that now. He could only practice, learn, improve, prepare. Whatever happened at the audition, he would give everything he had. He would show them what he could do. Not to beat anyone, not to prove anyone wrong, but because music was his dream. And finally, after all these years of dreaming, he had a real chance to make it come true. The 2 weeks before the audition passed in a blur. Marcus barely slept. He practiced until his fingers hurt. Then he practiced more. Margaret pushed him hard. She made him play scales until they were perfect. She taught him pieces by Bach, Beethoven, Chopin, and Rachmaninoff. She explained music theory in ways that made everything finally make sense. You have been playing by instinct, she told him during one lesson. That is beautiful. But now you need to add knowledge to that instinct. You need to understand why certain notes work together, why certain rhythms create tension or release. The best musicians have both heart and mind. Marcus absorbed everything like a sponge. He had spent years hungry for this knowledge. Now that he finally had access to it, he could not get enough. The night before the audition, Marcus could not sleep. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Tomorrow would change his life one way or another. Either he would prove he belonged in the world of classical music, or he would fail and have to return to his old life. The life where he was invisible. His mother came into his room. She sat on the edge of his bed like she used to do when he was a little boy. Are you nervous? She asked in Mandarin. Yes, Marcus admitted. Very nervous? Tell me something, Elena said. If you do not get accepted tomorrow, will you stop playing piano? Marcus thought about it. No, he said. I could never stop. Music is part of me now, Elena smiled. Then you have already won. No matter what happens tomorrow, you have found something you love, something that makes you feel alive. That is more than many people ever find. She kissed his forehead. Sleep now. Tomorrow you will show them what you can do. The next morning, Marcus woke early. He ate breakfast but could barely taste it. He dressed in the one nice outfit he owned. The same clothes he had worn to meet Margaret at the cafe. Elena had washed and pressed them carefully. Margaret picked them up in her car. She had offered to drive them to the conservatory. As they drove through the city, she talked to Marcus about what to expect. There will be 3 judges, she explained. The director, Dr. Harrison, and 2 professors from the piano department. They will ask you to play several pieces. They might stop you in the middle. That does not mean you are doing badly. They just want to hear different sections. Do you understand? Marcus nodded. His mouth was too dry to speak. Remember, Margaret continued, you have already impressed them with your recordings. They would not have invited you to audition if they did not see potential. Now you just need to show them who you are. Play from your heart like you always do. They arrived at the conservatory. The building was beautiful, old and elegant with tall columns and large windows. Students walked across the campus carrying instrument cases. Everyone looked talented and confident and like they belonged there. Marcus felt very small, very out of place. He was just a boy from a poor neighborhood, a boy who had taught himself on a broken keyboard. What was he doing here? But then he felt his mother's hand squeeze his, and he saw Margaret's encouraging smile. They believed in him. He had to believe in himself. They walked inside. A secretary led them to a waiting area outside the audition room. Margaret and Elena sat down. Marcus was too nervous to sit. He paced back and forth, then the door opened. A young woman came out. She looked relieved, happy. Her audition must have gone well. She left quickly. The secretary looked at Marcus. "Marcus Chen?" she called. "They are ready for you." This was it. Marcus looked at his mother one last time. She nodded at him. Her eyes said everything words could not. Margaret whispered, "Remember, heart and mind together. You can do this." Marcus walked through the door. The room was large and beautiful. Windows let in natural light. And in the center of the room was a grand piano, even more beautiful than the one at the Hartford mansion. 3 people sat at a table facing the piano. An older man in the middle who must be Dr. Harrison. A woman to his left. Another man to his right. They all had papers in front of them. Notes about Marcus. "Good morning, Marcus," Dr. Harrison said. His voice was kind. "Thank you for coming. We have listened to your recordings with great interest. Mrs. Rothstein has told us about your unusual background. We are curious to hear you play in person." "Thank you for the opportunity," Marcus said. His voice shook slightly. "Please sit at the piano," Dr. Harrison said. "We would like you to start with the Bach Prelude in C major from the Well-Tempered Clavier." "Do you know this piece?" Marcus nodded. Margaret had taught him this piece. It was beautiful and precise. Every note had to be clear. It showed technical control and musical understanding. Marcus sat at the piano. He placed his hands on the keys. He took a breath, and then he began to play. The Bach piece was like meditation. Each note was pure and clear. Marcus had practiced it so many times that his fingers knew exactly where to go, but he did not play it mechanically. He played it with feeling, with understanding of the mathematical beauty that Bach had created. When he finished, the judges made some notes. The woman smiled at him. "That was a good sign." "Very nice," Dr. Harrison said. "Your touch is quite good." "Self-taught, you said?" "Yes, sir. With videos and books, and now Mrs. Rothstein has been teaching me." "Remarkable. Now please play the Chopin Nocturne in E-flat major, Opus 9, number 2. This piece was different from the Bach. It was romantic and emotional. It required a singing tone like a voice. Marcus had fallen in love with this piece the first time he heard it. He had practiced it for hours, trying to make the piano sound like it was crying and laughing at the same time. He began to play. The melody floated above the accompaniment. Marcus let himself feel the sadness and beauty of the music. He thought about his mother working long hours, about his dreams that had seemed impossible, about finally getting a chance to play real pianos. All of that emotion poured into the music. The room was completely silent except for the piano. The judges were not writing notes anymore. They were just listening, really listening. When Marcus finished, there was a moment of silence. Then Dr. Harrison spoke. His voice was different now, softer, more impressed. "Marcus, that was extraordinary. The technique can be improved, yes. But the musicality is already there. That cannot be taught." He looked at the other judges. They nodded in agreement. "One more piece," Dr. Harrison said. "We understand you can play by ear. Mrs. Rothstein demonstrated this for us on the phone. We would like to test this ability. Professor Williams, would you play something for Marcus?" The man to Dr. Harrison's right stood up. He walked to the piano. Marcus stood to give him room. Professor Williams sat down and thought for a moment. Then he began to play. It was a piece Marcus did not know. Modern and complex, strange harmonies, unusual rhythms. It was not like the classical pieces Marcus had been practicing. Professor Williams played for about 2 minutes. Then he stopped and stood up. "Your turn," he said to Marcus with a slight smile. It was a challenge. A test to see if Marcus's gift was real or exaggerated. Marcus sat at the piano. His heart was pounding. This was what he had done that night at the Hartford mansion. What had started everything. Could he do it again? Under this pressure? He closed his eyes. He let the music play back in his mind. The strange harmonies. The unusual rhythms. The overall feeling of the piece. He saw it all like a map in his brain. He opened his eyes. He began to play. His hands found the notes. The complex chords. The weird rhythms. It was not perfect. He made a few small mistakes because the piece was so unfamiliar. But he captured the essence of it. The feeling. The structure. The main ideas. When he finished, he looked up at the judges. Professor Williams was staring at him with his mouth slightly open. The woman professor was shaking her head in disbelief. Dr. Harrison was smiling. "I have been teaching for 30 years, Professor Williams said. I have never seen anything like that. Never. The woman spoke for the first time. This gift is extremely rare. With proper training, Marcus could go very far. Dr. Harrison stood up. He walked over to Marcus. He extended his hand. Marcus shook it, confused. Welcome to the National Music Conservatory, Marcus, Dr. Harrison said. We would like to offer you a full scholarship. Tuition, books, everything. If you accept, you would start next semester. Marcus felt like the room was spinning. Had he heard correctly? A full scholarship? To the conservatory? Yes, he managed to say. Yes, I accept. Thank you. Thank you so much. The judges smiled. They told him more details. About when classes would start. About what he would study. About housing options. Marcus tried to listen, but his brain felt foggy with shock and joy. Finally, they let him leave. He walked out of the audition room in a daze. Elena and Margaret stood up immediately when they saw his face. Well? Margaret asked, though she seemed to already know from his expression. I got in, Marcus whispered. Full scholarship. Elena made a sound like a sob and a laugh together. She grabbed Marcus and hugged him tight. She was crying. Marcus was crying too. Margaret was smiling with tears in her eyes. I knew it, Margaret said. I knew they would see what I saw. They left the conservatory building and walked to the parking lot. Marcus kept looking back at the building. This would be his school, his home. The place where he would study music every day. It felt like a dream. On the drive home, Elena kept touching Marcus's hand like she needed to make sure he was real, that this was really happening. Elena, we heard about Marcus, Victoria said. Congratulations! A full scholarship to the conservatory is a great achievement. Thank you, ma'am, Elena said carefully. Sebastian spoke up. I got accepted too, he said. I found out yesterday. So Marcus and I will both be starting there next semester. There was an awkward silence. Elena did not know what to say. I wanted to talk to both of you, Victoria continued, about what happened that night. The dinner party. I have been thinking about it a lot. About how we reacted, how we treated Marcus. She paused. We were wrong. We laughed at him. We dismissed him. We were threatened by his talent because it challenged our understanding of how the world works. We thought talent came from opportunity and training. We did not realize it could come from pure passion and determination. Sebastian shifted uncomfortably. I was jealous, he admitted. I still am a little. My whole life I have been told I am talented. Special. The best. Then Marcus plays one time and everyone is talking about him instead of me. He looked at Elena. But I have been thinking too. Marcus did not have what I had. He did not have teachers or a good piano or supportive parents who could afford everything. And he still became as good as me. Maybe better. That does not make me less talented. It just means he is very talented too. Victoria nodded. We would like to do something. To make up for how we treated you both that night. She pulled out an envelope and handed it to Elena. This is a bonus for 15 years of loyal service. And also an apology. Elena opened the envelope. Inside was a check for $5,000. Her hands shook. Ma'am, this is too much. It is not enough, Victoria said firmly. You have given us 15 years of your life. You have made our home run smoothly. You have been loyal and hardworking, and we took you for granted. Please accept this. Elena's eyes filled with tears. She nodded, unable to speak. There is one more thing, Victoria said. She looked at Sebastian. He nodded at her. Our piano. The grand piano in the music room. We would like to give it to the conservatory as a donation, with one condition, that Marcus can use it whenever he needs to practice. Elena gasped. Ma'am, that piano is worth so much money. It is just sitting in our house, Victoria said. Sebastian will be living at the conservatory soon anyway. The piano should be where it will be used and appreciated, by students like Marcus who love music more than anything. Sebastian added, I have been thinking about teaching. Maybe after I graduate, I could teach kids who do not have opportunities. Kids like Marcus was. Maybe that is how I use my privilege. To help others who have talent but not resources. Elena did not know what to say. These people had changed. Or maybe they had always been capable of kindness but had never been challenged to show it before. 2 months later, Marcus started classes at the conservatory. The first day was overwhelming. So many talented students. So much to learn. He felt out of place and nervous. But then he saw Sebastian in the hallway. Sebastian walked over to him. For a moment, they just looked at each other. So much history between them now. "Hey," Sebastian said. "Want to get lunch together? I can show you around campus." Marcus smiled. "Yeah, that would be good." They walked together to the cafeteria. People stared at them. Everyone had heard the story by now. The rich kid and the maid's son. Both pianists. Both talented. Once rivals, now classmates. Over lunch they talked. Really talked. About music. About pressure. About their fears and dreams. They found they had more in common than they thought. They both loved Chopin. They both struggled with certain techniques. They both felt the weight of expectations. "You know what I realized?" Sebastian said. "Music is not a competition. There is room for both of us to be good. Room for lots of people to be good. The world needs more good music, not less." Marcus agreed. "I never wanted to compete with you. I just wanted to play." "I know that now," Sebastian said. "I am sorry it took me so long to see it." Over the next few months, Marcus and Sebastian became friends. Real friends. They practiced together sometimes. They helped each other with difficult pieces. Sebastian taught Marcus things he had learned from his expensive teachers. Marcus taught Sebastian how to feel music more deeply, to let go of perfectionism and just play. One day, Professor Williams approached them. He had an idea. The conservatory was holding a charity concert to raise money for scholarships for underprivileged students. Would Marcus and Sebastian like to perform a duet together? At first, they were unsure. A duet meant trusting each other completely, being in sync, working as a team rather than as individuals. But then they thought about what the concert was for. Helping other kids like Marcus. Kids with talent but no resources. How could they say no? They chose a piece that could be arranged for 4 hands on 2 pianos, something that required both players to be equally important, neither one dominating, neither one following, both working together to create something beautiful. They practiced for weeks. At first it was hard. They had different styles, different approaches. But slowly they learned to listen to each other, to blend their sounds, to support each other. The night of the concert arrived. The auditorium was full. Students, teachers, parents, donors. In the audience, Elena sat in the front row. She had never sat in the front row of anything in her life. But tonight she was not the housekeeper. She was Marcus's mother, and she belonged there. Next to Elena sat Victoria and Richard Hartford. They had donated a large sum of money to the scholarship fund. They were becoming advocates for music education for all students, regardless of background. Margaret Rothstein was there too. She sat with other retired teachers. They were all proud of their former students. But Margaret was especially proud of Marcus. The lights dimmed. Marcus and Sebastian walked onto the stage. 2 grand pianos waited there. One of them was the piano from the Hartford mansion, the one Marcus had dreamed about for years. Now it was his to play whenever he wanted. They sat at their respective pianos. They looked at each other, nodded, and began to play. The music was magic. It was technically perfect, yes. Sebastian's training and Marcus's natural talent combined to create something precise and clean. But it was more than that. It had emotion, heart, soul. The music told a story about 2 different people finding common ground, about competition turning into collaboration, about prejudice turning into respect. The audience was mesmerized. This was not just a performance. This was something special, something that could only happen when 2 talented people put aside their egos and worked together. When the last notes faded, there was a moment of silence. Then the entire audience rose to their feet. The applause was thunderous. People were wiping tears from their eyes. Marcus and Sebastian stood and bowed. They looked at each other and smiled. They had done it. They had created something beautiful together. In the front row, Elena was crying. Happy tears. Proud tears. Tears of gratitude that her son had been given this chance, that he had worked so hard, that he had achieved his dream. After the concert, people crowded around Marcus and Sebastian, congratulating them, praising the performance. But Marcus only had eyes for his mother. He found her in the crowd and hugged her tight. "Thank you, Mom," he whispered. "For everything. For working so hard. For never giving up. For believing I could have a better life." "No," Elena said. "Thank you. You showed me that dreams are not just for rich people. That talent and hard work can come from anywhere. You showed me that my son is special, and I am so proud of you." Later that night, as Marcus walked across campus back to his dorm, he stopped and looked up at the stars. He thought about the boy he used to be, the invisible boy sitting in the kitchen of the Hartford mansion, the boy with a broken keyboard and impossible dreams. That boy had been brave one night. He had stepped forward when everyone was laughing. He had challenged someone better trained, better equipped, better resourced, and he had shown them all what he could do. That one moment of courage had changed everything. It had brought him Margaret, and lessons, and eventually this scholarship, this new life. But the best part was not the scholarship or the beautiful pianos or the education. The best part was that he was not invisible anymore. He was Marcus Chen, he was a pianist, and he belonged. Somewhere in the city, in a small apartment, an old keyboard sat on a desk. 3 of its keys still did not work, but it had served its purpose. It had kept a dream alive until that dream could become real. And that keyboard, broken and imperfect as it was, had taught Marcus the most important lesson of all. That it does not matter where you start. It does not matter what you do not have. What matters is the passion in your heart, the dedication to keep practicing when no one is watching, the courage to step forward when everyone is laughing. Because sometimes, just sometimes, when you make that first advance, when you take that first brave step, the whole world can change, and the people who laughed will be the ones standing and applauding, seeing you, really seeing you, for the first time,